This episode of Stories from the Vault is brought to you by Petty Merch. Get 15% off your first order with code VAULT at pettymerch.xyz. Warning, this episode contains references to criminal activity, sexual abuse, conspiracy, political insurrection, and ongoing investigations. Viewer discretion is advised. The FBI Vault contains over 1,000 pages that reference Donald Trump. In this episode, we'll explore the documents that detail his business dealings, his connections to Jeffrey Epstein, and the events surrounding January 6th. These are the records that show the Bureau has investigated, what it has documented, and what the public rarely gets to see. We're not here to speculate. We're here to follow the trail of the official FBI files. Documented, archived, and now declassified.
Wilshire, Unit City, Wilshire, Unit 211, GTA just occurred, 3921 Wilshire Boulevard, 3921 Wilshire Boulevard, incident 329, any Wilshire unit code 2 high.
It begins long before the White House. The FBI Vault contains hundreds of pages referencing Donald Trump, his businesses, and the people around him. Long before politics became a focus, Trump was a figure in federal investigations to real estate practices, financial dealings, and association with controversial individuals. In the 1970s, the Trump Management Company faced scrutiny for allegations of racial discrimination in housing. Federal investigators documented complaints from tenants, internal memos, and correspondence with Trump's team. These documents, now declassified, reveal an early pattern of legal entanglements that would follow Trump throughout his life. Vault files also touch on the broader Trump organization, its complex web of partnership, loans, and business dealings. References include internal FBI notes evaluating potential risks, monitoring financial activities, and noting associations with individuals later tied to organized crime investigations. It's important to note that at this stage, the FBI was just gathering information, documenting patterns, and assessing risk. The files don't prove wrongdoing in every instance, but they show the Bureau's long-term interest in Trump's operations and the network of influence surrounding him. By the 1980s, Donald Trump had expanded his empire, building a reputation as a high-stakes, ambitious businessman. The Vault shows the FBI watching closely, taking notes on lawsuits, financial filings, and potential exposure to both domestic and international risks. These early investigations set the stage for the deeper scrutiny that would come decades later. By the 1990s, Donald Trump's name was well known across New York, the United States, and eventually the world. Vault documents indicate that federal investigators began noticing patterns of social and financial connections that were increasingly complex and in some cases controversial. One name keeps appearing: Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein, a financier with a private island and high-profile social circle, had connections to politicians, business magnates, and international figures. The FBI Vault contains references to Trump within reports and investigation into Epstein's network, highlighting encounters at parties, social gatherings, and mutual acquaintances. Documents detail the ways Epstein's activities were under scrutiny for criminal and sexual misconduct. Within these files, Trump is mentioned as a part of the social network, attending events and interacting with people who would later become central figures in Epstein-related investigations. The Vault doesn't speculate. It records meetings, social events, and connections noted during inquiries. Internal FBI memos note that while Trump was not a target of criminal investigation in Epstein cases at the time, his name did surface repeatedly in context. The Bureau documented associations, financial overlaps, and social interactions that provided a broader picture of Epstein's reach. The Vault files also show FBI consideration of potential influence, access, and exposure. Agents recorded observations of social circles, relationships, and patterns that might intersect with criminal behavior. These documents serve as a factual chronicle of Trump's connections to Epstein without passing judgment. The material exists in the files because it was documented during formal investigations. By examining these records, the audience gains insight into the structure of Epstein's network, the scope of the federal scrutiny, and the way influential figures, including Trump, were connected to it. This is not speculation. This is the Bureau's own words, preserved in the vault. By the mid-2000s, Donald Trump's public figure had shifted from business magnate to political figure. As his presidential ambitions became apparent, the FBI's attention evolved. Vault documents indicate heightened scrutiny into financial transactions, international connections, and political associations. The files include internal assessments of Trump's interactions with politically sensitive figures, both in the United States and abroad. While the Bureau did not operate as a political opponent, it documented anything that could pose a national security threat. The vault reveals memos noting meetings, communications, and potential vulnerabilities tied to foreign influence, loans, and partnerships. FBI agents also monitored Trump's social network, which remained closely intertwined with figures later involved in high-profile controversies. Vault reports track these associations factually, recording observed interactions, connections, and financial overlaps. The Bureau's approach was methodical. Agents recorded data, cross-checked reports, and evaluated risk without editorial comment. The document makes clear that surveillance at this stage was about potential exposure, not prosecution. By the time Trump officially launched his presidential campaign in 2015, the vault shows that the FBI had accumulated a significant body of records, observations of associates, public statements, and documented interactions with influential people. These files illustrate the depth of federal record keeping, demonstrating how the Bureau monitors figures who could impact national security, policy, and political stability. This context sets the stage for the FBI's involvement in one of the most consequential political events in modern history, the events surrounding January 6, 2021. January 6, 2021, the United States Capitol, a symbol of democracy, was breached by a violent mob. The FBI vault contains documents that reference Donald Trump in connection with the events of that day. Records show federal agents tracking communications, threats, and potential criminal activity leading up to the insurrection. Vault files include internal memos, monitoring of public statements, speeches, and social media posts, reports on groups and individuals mobilized by rhetoric connected to Trump, threat assessments submitted to senior officials within the Bureau. These documents illustrate how the FBI approached the situation cautiously, balancing legal boundaries, intelligence gathering, and national security concerns. Agents were aware that the events were unprecedented in scale and severity, requiring meticulous documentation. Some memos reference Trump's direct and indirect influence over the crowd, noting how language and public statements were interpreted as potential incitement or motivation. The Bureau carefully recorded these observations, creating a factual, chronological account of the unfolding situation. Further vaults cover the immediate aftermath, threats to elected officials, scrutiny breaches, and ongoing investigations. The files also note the complexity of pursuing accountability in a politically charged environment, where public officials and private citizens were intertwined in the events of that day. By examining these documents, the viewer sees the FBI's methodical response. Not commentary, not opinion, but the federal record as it exists. The vault files capture the tension, the risk, and the unprecedented challenge posed by an attack on the very heart of American governance. This act marked the culmination of decades of scrutiny, associations, and federal documentation from early business dealings to the events of January 6. The FBI vault provides a detailed chronicle of one of the most influential and controversial figures in modern U.S. history. The FBI vault offers a window into decades of scrutiny, associations, and federal documentation, from early real estate investigations to social connections with Jeffrey Epstein, and from campaign monitoring to the events of January 6th. These documents trace a factual chronicle of Donald Trump's public and private life as observed by federal investigators. Redactions in the vault highlight what remains sensitive, ongoing, or classified. They remind us that the Bureau maintains records not to speculate, but to document, assess, and safeguard national security. Even in cases of high-profile figures, the files show the balance between transparency, legality, and secrecy. This episode is a rare opportunity to explore these records in full context without opinion, without conjecture, just the documents themselves, preserved and accessible to the public. For those curious, the vault contains over 1,000 pages referencing Donald Trump. Each file provides a unique lens into history as it unfolded and the oversight mechanisms the FBI employed. Until next time, lock the file. And remember, the truth is rarely redacted forever. Next time on Stories from the Vault, we pivot from politics to the unexplained. That's right, the FBI has 9 separate records on paranormal and unexplained phenomena, from mysterious lights and sounds to strange disappearances. We'll explore what the Bureau documented, how seriously they took it, and what remains unanswered to this day. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Kyle Fields. This has been Stories from the Vault. We'll see you next time.